The zodiac of the month of Shvat is the zodiac of Aquarius. To understand the meaning of the month of Shvat, the zodiac of Shvat, the tribe of Shvat, the limb and the attribute of the month, similarly the letter of the month, and also the permutation of the month of Shvat. First and foremost, the meaning of the word Shevat. Number one means Shenishma B'sureis Toivos. In other words, Shvat could be an acronym. And that is Shenishma B'sureis Toivos, that we should hear good news. It's a month of good news. Number two, the meaning of Shvat is found in a pasuk in the Torah, in the book of Numbers, chapter 24, verse number 17. Over there it says, "V'kom Shevat b'Yisrael," that a scepter shall arise amongst the Jewish people. The word Shevat meaning a leader that has a staff or a scepter representing leadership and kingship. And therefore the pasuk, as our commentaries tell us, alludes to the coming of the Mashiach, who will be the king of the entire world. So Shvat alludes to this concept of leadership and kingship. The month of Shvat is the 11th month on the Jewish calendar, starting from the month of Nisan all the way through the month of Adar. The 11th month is Shvat. What is 11? So 10 is holy, is Kodesh. 11 is Kodesh HaKadoshim, Holy of Holies. 10 is Shabbos. 11 is Shabbos Shabbos, in the Shabbos of all Shabbos. 10 alludes to the 10 Sfirot, which are limited in their own attribute. 11 represents Keser, which is the crown that goes above all the 10 attributes. And this is the concept that we find, the terminology of Antu Chad V'lei B'chushban. We told God, you are one, but beyond number. In other words, you are a number 11. You don't go into the category of 10, but rather you are the 11th, Yud Aleph. On a practical note, what does it mean for all of us? The number 10 alludes to the avodah, the service of a tzaddik. A tzaddik is someone who is complete. He does everything right. He goes down the beaten path and follows the Torah laws and studies the Torah and prays 3 times a day, etc., etc. He does all of this with all of his 10 faculties to the best of his ability. This is the tzaddik. However, the Baal Tshuva, the one who returns to Judaism, this represents the number 11 because he does this with a dilug. He does this with a quantum leap. He doesn't do the everyday routine, but rather he has the ability to have additional energy and additional love. And through this, he's able to make this jump, this quantum leap, to go higher and higher and yet still higher. And this number 11 is also found in the Ketores, in the incense that was brought in the Holy Temple. There were 10 that smelled very good. The 11th was called the Chalbana. It had a bad smell. And yet that was one of the 11 spices that was burned every day in the Holy Temple. And through the 10 that smelled good, you had the ability to also transform the Chalbana that had a terrible smell. And therefore, together with the other 10, it became transformed. And that is the idea of Baal Tshuva. That even though perhaps he was first the Chalbana, he had this putrid smell. However, by the fact that he reconnects with this dilug, with this quantum leap, he has the ability to transform everything of the past and elevate all of these negative into the positive. That is the power of Shvat, to transform negative into positive. And all of this is highlighted by the zodiac of the month, which is Aquarius. What is Aquarius? Aquarius in Hebrew is a dali. A dali is a bucket, a pail of water. In other words, we find the Torah tells us that from the first day of the month of Shvat, Moshe Rabbeinu began Levayed as a Torah Azois. Moshe Rabbeinu began to expound upon the entire Torah. Be'er as a Torah Azois, he expounded upon the Torah into 70 different languages. In other words, the last 37 days of his life, starting from the first day of Shvat, Moshe Rabbeinu repeated the entire Torah, and he began to expound the Torah on 70 different languages so that all the nations of the world would be able to understand the Word of God. And that is the idea of a Dali, or the Aquarius, to pour out the teachings that others should also be able to understand. And this was also done by the servant of Avraham, which was called the Mesek Eliezer of Damascus. Says Rashi, why was it called Damascus, the Mesek? Shadelo Mashke Meteres Rabbi Lachedim. For what did he do? He poured out the teachings of Avraham to others. And that is really the job of every leader, of every Moses, and subsequently the leaders of each generation, to pour out the Torah to make it accessible to that generation. And therefore we find that on the 10th day of the month of Shvat was the passing of the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. And on the 11th day of Shvat was the day that the Rebbe assumed leadership and mantle of the Chabad movement. As the Rebbe once said at a Farbrengen, that it was on the 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th year that he became Rebbe. The 11th day of the 11th month is the 11th of Shvat. The 11th year was from when his father-in-law, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, came to the shores of America. So here we see that the concept of Zodiac, which is the Aquarius of the month of Shvat, represents the idea to expound upon the Torah. And as the Rebbe mentions that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, one of the great things and accomplishments that he did was to take the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov and the teachings of Chassidus and Torah in general and to translate them into various other languages. And this was promoted initially by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, who was the Moshe of his generation, and this continued in a greater way through our Rebbe in our generation. So this is the idea of Aquarius, that one becomes the water carrier, to take the bucket and the pail, and to take the knowledge that he or she knows, and to teach this knowledge to others as well. And this idea continues with the tribe of the month. And here we have two different tribes that we're going to talk about. The way we discuss the tribe of the month, on one hand, is done through the cycle of how they brought the sacrifices when they inaugurated the Holy Temple. And therefore, the 11th day, the sacrifice was offered by Asher. And therefore, the tribe of the month of Shvat is Asher. On the other hand, there are those who say that the tribe of the month is represented by the birth, and therefore the 11th to be born was Yosef. So what is the meaning of Asher, or what is the meaning of Yosef? And being that both Asher and Yosef are the tribe of the month, therefore they have a connection one to the other. Asher, what does Asher mean? We find that in the blessings that he has received in the Torah, it says, Asher shmeida lachma, that Asher will produce a lot of oil. He'll be very rich because he's going to have a lot of oil in his domain. The idea of oil, according to Chassidus, represents the teachings of the secrets of the Torah. And the oil is what brings the true pleasure and tainug, the taste of the food. And that is the meaning of Asher. Asher means tainug. Asher means pleasure. Furthermore, Asher also alludes to redemption. As it says, V'ishru eschem kol hagoyim, we find in the book of Malachi. He says over there that in the future, that all the nations of the world will praise you. The word usher equals 501. Aleph is 1, Shin is 300, Resh is 200. What is 501? So we know that a person has 5 levels to the soul. There's Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai, Yechid. Each level of the soul, in its most perfect state, is 10 times 10. So really, even though there are 5 levels of the soul, but the perfect soul or the complete soul is 500. What is 501? 501 represents the essence of the soul. The names of the soul are still a name, and therefore it's a limitation. 501 represents the essence of the soul that is truly one with God, and therefore is beyond time and space. This is the idea of Usher. What is Yosef? Yosef means to add, to increase. And therefore, no matter how much one already accomplished, they must continue to do more and more. What is the connection between Usher and Yosef? So first and foremost, we said earlier that Usher represents oil. And it says in the Torah, "Mi Usher shmeino lachm," that Usher will produce oil. Oil alludes to the secrets of the Torah, which is called Soid. And the Soid is also the attribute of Joseph. Furthermore, when Joseph was in Egypt and Yaakov, his father, thought he was dead, who was the one that revealed the secret and told Jacob that Yosef is alive? It was none other than Sarach bas Usher, the daughter of Usher, which is Sarach. She was the one that broke the news to Yaakov. Furthermore, when Moshe wanted to take out the body of Joseph that was hidden by the Egyptians, Moses asked Sarach, where did they bury Yosef? And it was Sarach that told Moshe Rabbeinu where the body of Yosef was. So here we see Sarach bas Usher is connected to Yosef, and therefore both of these tribes are the tribes of the month of Shvat, the tribe of Aquarius. This idea is also connected to the limb of the month, which is called the kurkuban, or the stomach, and the attribute of the month, which is taste. The idea again is when you taste a delicious food, you have pleasure. It's not enough that you taste it in your mouth, but rather it goes into your stomach and it digests, that you understand it, alluding to the words of Torah, and primarily the words of Chassidus, that not only should it be accepted by faith, but rather internalized and appreciated, that every part of the body should be permeated with the words of Torah. What is the letter of the month? The letter of the month of Shevat is a letter of tzaddik. We know that there are 2 tzaddiks. There is the plain tzaddik, and then there's the long tzaddik, the end tzaddik. And here too, in the month of Shvat, we talk about 2 tzaddiks. We talk about the first tzaddik, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, who was the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe who passed away in this month. And we talk about the second tzaddik, who was the 7th Lubavitcher Rebbe, who took over and became the Rebbe in this month. 2 tzaddiks in the month of Shvat. Furthermore, connecting the tzaddik to redemption, we are told that when Moses came to redeem the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu gave over the code. In other words, the Jews knew that a redeemer one day would come. But who's going to be with the redeemer? There could be a false redeemer. And therefore, the Redeemer had a secret code. What was the secret code that Moshe Rabbeinu had to prove he was truly the Redeemer? The code was Pakoid Pakadati. Remember, I have remembered. Starting with the letter Pei. And we are told that when Mashiach will come, he will also have a code, and that will be the tzaddik. Tzaddik is tzemach tzomachti, or tzemach tzaddik. In other words, that the scion has sprouted forth, and the scion is righteous. So this is the letter tzaddik alluding to geula, alluding to redemption. And here too, the tzaddik means tzedakah, acts of goodness and kindness, and therefore what we have to do is to increase in acts of goodness and kindness to bring about this good news of the geula hamitis vashlema, the ultimate redemption. What is the permutation of the month? The permutation of the month of Shevat is Hey, Yud, Vav, and Hey. These are the 4 letters of God's name. However, the order is first Hey, then Yud, then Vav, and Hey. This spells out the words of Hamer Yemirenu V'Hayuhu. What is that? So we find in the Torah, we are told that if you offer an animal for a sacrifice, the animal has to be a beautiful animal. Let's say you decide you want to substitute this animal for another animal. You want to exchange it. You want to get a better one, or perhaps even a cheaper one. Says the Torah, if he offers a substitute for the first animal, what happens? They both become holy. That's the halacha. Because perhaps you wanted to get away with giving a cheaper animal, says the Torah, you know what? No problem. The first animal will become holy and the second will also become holy. The Rebbe sees over here a very deep message. And that is, every person has the ability to bring a substitute. In other words, each one of us has the ability to inspire another person to make them holy and bring them closer to God. And then what happens when you make another person holy? You don't become less holy. He does not become your substitute. On the contrary, one candle can light many candles. And therefore that person also becomes holy. And that is the permutation of this month. If he offers a substitute, period. Says the Rebbe something very interesting. It doesn't say, and both shall become holy. Why? Because your job is to try to bring the substitute. Your job is to influence and inspire the other person. If the other person will truly become transformed, that is God's job, not yours. Your job is to do, and God will transform. In Yiddish they say, a Yid afton. A Yid has to do. Und the Eibishter wird ufton. The Eibishter will transform. The Eibishter, God, will accomplish. But to do, you have to do. And this is connected with the name of Yosef. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, was very involved in outreach, and then of course his successor, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, brought the outreach to the entire world. But the idea of Yosef represents to add, and make another Jew. And as the pasuk tells us that when Yosef was born, his mother said, Yosef li Hashem bein acher, God, give me another child. The Tzemach Tzedek explains that, what does that mean? That Yosef li Hashem bein acher, that even from acher, someone who's outside the fold, or someone who has left the fold, and therefore is simply acher, other, we have to transform that child into a being to make that child truly a child of God. And that is found within the word of Yosef and the meaning behind the name Yosef. And therefore we have the entire month in the word of Shvat, that we should hear good news by inspiring ourselves and teaching others and inspiring others. And to do this in a way of true pleasure, to enjoy what you're doing, to see the beauty of God and the beauty of Torah. And we hope and pray to see a total transformation when all the nations of the world will truly exalt Almighty God with the rebuilding of the third Holy Temple speedily in our days.